Chapter 336, Recollection. In the blink of an eye, the streak of azure light that Han Li had transformed into vanished into thin air, and when he reappeared a moment later, he was already hundreds of kilometers away. As soon as he emerged, he immediately continued onward. After getting a little further away, he immediately accelerated, covering a distance of tens of thousands of kilometers in the blink of an eye before descending near a secluded mountain. From there, he turned to take a glance back in the direction of the White Jade Peak before heaving a faint sigh. Regardless of whether the Blaze Dragon Dao would be able to weather this storm, he couldn't stay here any longer. In the wake of this incident, there would be no end to the troubles awaiting the Blaze Dragon Dao, and he was quite close with Taoist Hu Yan, so there was no telling whether he was going to be targeted as well. Most importantly, that silver-robed young man had struck him with a very strong sense of foreboding. He couldn't pinpoint why this was the case, but he had an unconscious urge to get as far away from him as possible. Upon withdrawing his gaze, Han Li made a hand seal, and arcs of golden lightning sprang out of his body to instantly form a lightning array, immediately following which he vanished into thin air. Not long after Han Li vanished from the spot, several streaks of light came flying over from the White Jade Peak before dispersing in different directions. All of these people were members of the Blaze Dragon Dao, and there was no lack of true Immortal stage elders among them. In the sky above a mountain in the Beltol mountain range, a blurry golden line flashed through the air, hurtling forward at an incredible speed. The golden line resembled an arc of lightning, and the space in its wake was rippling slightly, presenting a rather peculiar sight to behold. This was a movement technique that combined the powers of space and lightning. Lightning movement techniques allowed one to achieve a level of speed that was close to instantaneous teleportation, but they were two different things, in that one was only transforming oneself into a state of lightning in order to enhance their own speed. All of a sudden, the golden line began to slow down. A burst of invisible force had emerged in the space up ahead to obstruct the golden line, and it was as if it were moving through treacle. The more the golden line tried to force its way through, the more formidable the obstructive force became, and before long, the golden line had been slowed down significantly. All of a sudden, the nearby space rippled, and a golden lightning array appeared, following which Han Li emerged at the center of the array amid a rumbling thunderclap. He swept his gaze forward momentarily, and his expression darkened slightly as he continued onward, as a streak of azure light covering several hundred kilometers in the blink of an eye before drawing to a halt. Up ahead was an enormous wall of yellow mist that extended straight up into the heavens, and there was no end to it in sight, to the left or the right. The wall of yellow mist was constantly churning, taking on all types of different forms, such as clouds and ferocious beasts. Rays of yellow light were filtering through the mist, and one could just barely make out countless yellow array patterns shimmering within it. The wall of mist was also giving off an incredibly dense and heavy aura, making one feel as if they were standing before an immovable mountain. Han Li flew over to the wall of mist, then attempted to release his spiritual sense into the wall, only for it to be instantly repelled upon contact. His brows furrowed slightly as he began to inspect the wall of mist with his bright sight spirit eyes, and moments later, the blue light in his eyes faded as well as he murmured to himself, "This is an extremely formidable restriction." His lightning teleportation array drew upon the power of space, so ordinary restrictions wouldn't have been able to contain it, unless the restriction was also imbued with spatial power. Through the use of his bright sight spirit eyes, he was able to see some of the finer details of the restriction, and he discovered that it contained a layer of dense and abundant spatial power, clearly indicating that it was a type of extremely formidable spatial restriction. In addition to that, there were also several other types of restrictions within the wall of mist, and they were combined together using very advanced techniques. Even for Han Li, breaking this restriction was going to take a very long time. He took a glance at his surroundings, then released his spiritual sense with all his might, and several moments later, he withdrew his spiritual sense as his expression darkened even further. The wall of mist was so vast that even with his formidable spiritual sense, he was completely unable to detect where it began and where it concluded. However, judging from what he had been able to glean thus far, he could tell that his wall of yellow mist was an enormous spherical array that encompassed a huge area around the White Jade Peak. He had passed through this place on his way to the White Jade Peak, but this restriction definitely hadn't been there at the time. This must have been set up in advance by the Northern Glacial Immortal region and those Dao lords of the Blaze Dragon Dao. It was clear that these people had been plotting and preparing extensively for this, with the objective of preventing Bailey Yan from getting away. After a brief moment of contemplation, Han Li swept a hand through the air, and 12 streaks of golden light shot out of his body, revealing themselves to be 12 lengths of lightning restraining wood, all of which were riddled with complex lightning runes. The 12 lengths of lightning restraining wood had been arranged into an array, and as Han Li made a hand seal, all 12 lengths of lightning restraining wood began to radiate dazzling golden light, following which an enormous lightning array was conjured up, within which countless complex lightning runes were flashing incessantly. Han Li was situated inside the array, and his body began to take on a semi-transparent appearance amid a rumbling thunderclap. However, in the next instant, the lightning array suddenly began to tremble violently, and lightning was flashing erratically within it in a chaotic and uncontrolled fashion. A resounding boom rang out as the entire lightning array exploded, and Han Li stumbled out into the open. After a brief pause, he swept a sleeve through the air to recover the 12 lengths of lightning restraining wood, then cast his gaze toward the wall of yellow mist once again. Right at this moment, a vast black cloud suddenly appeared above his head, and countless rays of black light shone down from the heavens, raining directly down upon him. Han Li immediately vanished from the spot amid a flash of azure light, then reappeared tens of thousands of feet away. The countless rays of black light struck a mountain down below, instantly punching countless holes into it before toppling it entirely. Han Li raised his head to look up, right as 3 streaks of light descended out of the sky before fading to reveal a trio of humanoid figures, led by none other than the silver-robed young man. The 2 people accompanying him were dressed in black and standing slightly behind him in a respectful manner, seemingly serving as personal guards. One of them was a tall and portly man, while the other was quite short and as thin as a skeleton. What is the meaning of this? Your target is Bailey Yan. I'm just a minor character, so surely there's no reason for you to go out of your way to come after me. Han Li said. As he was speaking, he swept his spiritual sense over the trio in the discreet fashion, and his heart immediately sank slightly. The 2 guards dressed in black were both at the late, true immortal stage, while the silver-robed young man's exact cultivation base was undetectable to him, indicating that he had either cultivated some type of concealment secret technique, or he was a golden immortal. Well, color me impressed. Not only have you not died from last time, you've become a late true immortal cultivator. I suppose I should congratulate you, the silver-robed young man mused, displaying no intention of answering Han Li's question. It sounds like we've met somewhere before? Han Li asked as his brows furrowed slightly. The silver-robed young man seemed to have been very amused to hear this, and he erupted into laughter, while Han Li looked on with an uncertain expression. There's no way he would remember what happened last time after being struck by your soul-destroying true light, young master. It's already a massive blessing for him that he hasn't been reduced to a blubbering idiot. The portly guard chuckled with a fawning smile on his face. The silver-robed young man's laughter grew even louder upon hearing this. All of a sudden, Taoist Shi's voice rang out within Han Li's mind. Fellow Taoist Han, I remember who he is. He's the one who severely wounded you all those years ago and sealed your azure bamboo cloud swarm swords and myself. Han Li's heart jolted slightly upon hearing this, and he hurriedly asked through voice transmission, Are you sure? I'm certain. He possesses an array of strange abilities, and he seems to be able to seal away one's memories. I was only able to recover some snippets of memories after fusing with this puppet, but I'm confident that this is the man who came after you all those years ago. Taoist Shi replied. Hanli offered no response, but a cold look had appeared in his eyes. It looks like you've finally remembered something. I've had to spend a great deal of effort looking for you, and I certainly wasn't expecting to find you here, the silver-robed young man said with a faint smile. It sounds like we're truly tied together by fate, Hanli said in a cold voice. I don't want to waste any time here. Hand over the secret behind how you're able to produce those time law crystals, and I can let you live, the silver-robed young man said. But I have no plans of letting you live, Hanli retorted with a shake of his head. It appears that my kindness is being mistaken for weakness. I'm not going to let you get away again this time. The smile on the silver-robed young man's face faded as he spoke, and he abruptly swept a hand through the air to release a streak of black light. As soon as the streak of black light was sent flying through the air, it immediately brightened considerably, before abruptly vanishing from the spot. Hanli immediately dodged to his left while also making a hand seal, and 4 azure flying swords emerged from his body amid a flash of azure light. The streak of black light appeared beside Hanli without any warning, but it was kept at bay by one of the flying swords that was revolving around him. A loud clang rang out as Hanli was sent flying back through the air like a cannonball, only managing to just barely steady himself after flying back for several hundred feet. Only then did Hanli catch a clear glimpse of the streak of black light, and it contained a small black hammer that was around a foot in size with profound spirit patterns engraved all over its surface, giving off formidable spiritual power fluctuations. Even though the azure flying sword had managed to ward off the hammer, it was trembling incessantly, clearly having been dealt a heavy blow. Hanli flicked his fingers through the air, and the 3 other flying swords quickly shot forth to strike the black hammer, sending it flying back amid a string of 3 consecutive resounding clangs.